Last year, Father's Day started out as usual. I always woke up first. I never got a good night's sleep, so I knew it would be quite a while before my 18-year-old wife and my 18 and 17-year-old girls would wake up and join me. Every year, for Mother's Day, I would make my wife a delicious mimosa breakfast. For lunch, I would make her a cheese plate with cheese, fruit and nuts, and a bottle of good white wine. For dinner, I would make her favorite meal, grilled steak and baked potatoes paired with a nice Cabernet Sauvignon. When the girls were younger, they helped with breakfast and the obligatory waiting on Mom. But as they got older, I was left alone to pamper them. There was nothing special about it. My wife usually reciprocated by cooking a special breakfast for me, although on Father's Day, I cooked steaks for dinner. So last year on Father's Day, I waited until my wife woke up to make me breakfast, which doesn't happen on any other day of the year. She doesn't know it, but I usually eat something small when I wake up around 6. I'll starve to death if I don't eat until she wakes up around 9, which is early for her on the weekend. When she woke up, she kissed me, wished me Happy Father's Day, and started making a special breakfast for the family. For lunch, we went to a kitschy little cafe with Doctor Who-themed sandwiches, and overall, the day went well. My wife is a slave to the calendar and knows when all the important dates fall. She marks everything from holidays to kids' activities on a dry erase calendar hanging on the side of the kitchen cabinet. All holidays, milestones, school events, half-days, etc. are written on the calendar. Nothing is ever missed, except when I miss something, of course. The following year, when my wife was putting the dates on the calendar at the end of May, she said, "Hey Bill, this year your birthday falls on Father's Day." It wasn't the first time this had happened, so I wasn't surprised. I said, "Cool, don't save money and trick me into not getting 2 presents." Kathy replied with a laugh, "You'll never leave me alone if you get cheated out of a gift. I'm going to have to do something special for you this year." I kissed her cheek and squeezed her ass as I left the kitchen. I hoped she meant something more than the annual birthday and Father's Day shenanigans. She'd started doing these with me when we made love regularly, but never followed through. They were usually part of foreplay, except for those 2 days when she brought things to a close, so to speak. On my birthday and Father's Day, she did it to me very sweetly, not expecting to get anything in return. I usually reciprocated by making her feel very good when she did it too. I wasn't a complete idiot. I was excited and thought I was going to get something more special on my upcoming special day. The weeks leading up to my big day passed strangely in our house. My wife was acting strange, staying late at work, snapping at me and the girls over little things, and getting dressed for work more often. She worked as the bakery manager at our local grocery store. She had never worn makeup before, but around this time she started doing it. She also wore a scarf over her clothes, which consisted of a white button-down shirt and pants. Another button she would leave undone, which further showed off her ample cleavage. I began to have my doubts when, on the Friday before my birthday, she went out without me. We often went out with the main group of married couples, so she rarely went out with the girls alone. If someone was going out for drinks and invited her along, she'd let me know the place and I'd meet her. Not that I was an ogre and wouldn't let her do things on her own. She always said she enjoyed her time more if I was with her. It made me feel good, and I thought our marriage was pretty strong because of little things like that. For my part, I didn't do much without her outside of our social circle either. That was fine with us. We weren't party people or big drinkers. Our idea of a nice Friday night was just about lounging on the couch together and watching a couple of movies. That's why I was surprised to see her coming down the stairs that Friday, dressed to the hilt. She was wearing a new short skirt, nude stockings, and high-heeled shoes. She had also clearly been to the tanning salon and had her hair done. I whistled and asked, "Damn, honey, did I forget we have a date? Let me just get dressed real quick." "No, Bill. I'm going on a date with some people from work. I thought you might want to order a pizza for yourself since our girls are going out too." I was shocked. She'd never mentioned it, and it wasn't on her precious calendar. "Oh, you didn't tell me you had plans. I thought we were going to finish our shows tonight." A look of fear appeared on her beautiful face, but then she pulled herself together and softened. "I'm sorry, baby. I was just asked today." I scrutinized her from head to toe and said, "So you just found out today, but in the hour you were at work before me, you bought a new skirt, went tanning, and got your hair done?" I started to get angry. She was lying to me, but I couldn't prove it. I couldn't believe she could cheat on me. It was out of character for her. She was the epitome of a suburban soccer mom's wife and mother. Our sex life was great. We still made love several times a week. She had no reason to cheat on me. She said, "I worked half a day today. I wanted to look good for a change." Before I could say anything in response, she slipped out the door without further ado, leaving me wondering what the hell had happened. I waited for her, and she came home just before midnight. Her hair was no longer lying down but was gathered into a regular ponytail. So much for the hairstyle. She walked past me without saying a word and went upstairs. A few minutes later, I heard the shower running. I just shook my head, wondering what she had done that she had to shower before bed. She didn't come downstairs to me and say goodnight before going to bed. I realized something was wrong in my perfect little world and wondered how wrong. I work in the retail industry, so I was at work on Saturday morning. Usually, when I was getting ready for work, she would wake up and kiss me goodbye before heading to bed. That morning, I got nothing. Once again, I was shocked. When I arrived at the store, I saw Missy waiting for me at the front door. Missy was the morning barista at our big store's coffee shop. She was a pretty red-haired girl whose blue eyes were striking. As happily married as I was, I couldn't help but take notice of her. I'd always liked redheads. "Hi, Bill," she called out as I approached the entrance. It was still locked since it was a half hour before the store opened. The guys from the night crew could let her in, but as she'd told me before, she wasn't comfortable alone in a store with a bunch of guys. "Good morning, Missy," I said as I opened the doors in front of us. "What's wrong, Bill? You look like someone killed your cat." "Sorry, I've got a lot on my mind today." She threw me a strange look but left it at that. "Give me a few minutes and I'll pour you a cup of our best." I forced myself to smile and said, "Sounds good, I'll see you soon." I closed the doors as she hurried to get the caf, ready for the morning rush. I knew she would be very busy after the store opened. Our little caf was always crowded in the mornings. As I walked around the floor, I would check on the crews who were getting their departments ready. I always went around to all the departments in the morning. This wasn't necessary as I had a very good team of department managers, but it gave me a chance to say hello and make small talk. I felt it was important to maintain a good relationship with my team members, and I think they appreciated my efforts. The last stop on my walk was the coffee shop, where Missy was already waiting for me with a large black coffee. "Here you go, boss. 1 cup of the best variety at the Megamart." "Thanks, Missy." I put $2 on the counter. "No, Bill, he's in the house today." "No way, Missy. I pay for everything here. The last thing I need is someone getting mad at me and calling corporate to denounce me." She sighed. "Bill, I would never—" "I didn't mean you, Missy. I can't take that kind of risk even for a $2 coffee. You'd be surprised at the things I have to put up with if I deny someone a day off or cut overtime. It's just not reasonable." "Okay, boss, fair enough." I waved goodbye and sipped from my mug. I'm sure some employees get free coffee from time to time. There's no way to track it, and who needs to? Too much work over cheap coffee. I can't imagine spending hours watching videos to make sure everyone paid. It was different for me. Being at the head of the company was risky. Employees would lose their temper over the dumbest things. I was called into HR because I was enforcing parking regulations. Seriously, calling HR because you have to park in your backyard, that's just ridiculous. The day ended and went pretty smoothly. The thing that excited me the most was the old lady who stole the cat food and bird food. It was exactly the kind of day I needed. I was busy enough not to ruminate on my new problems with my wife, but not so busy that I didn't have time to do all the chores. When I walked through the door of the house, my wife and daughters were on their way out. I was surprised for a moment but looked at the calendar. "Bye, Daddy," my daughters said as they kissed me goodbye on the cheek. My loving wife said nothing. They were going to a concert with other moms and daughters. It had been planned a long time ago and was on the calendar, but I, as usual, forgot. I was hoping I would have a chance to talk to Kathy and find out what was going on. I hated not knowing what she had done the night before. After not thinking about it all day, there was nothing left for me to do but ponder it in the evening. I took this opportunity to fool around a bit. I checked her email but figured that wouldn't work, and it did. No one else had sent any emails. She had a cell phone, so I couldn't check messages or call logs. I went over to the laundry basket to check her clothes from the evening, but since it was Saturday, she had already done her laundry. I didn't have time to do anything, and after finishing the movie, I went to bed feeling no better than before. Waking up on my birthday and Father's Day, I started my day as usual. I ate a couple slices of toast, drank my coffee, and sat on the terrace to enjoy the morning. The day was gorgeous. I enjoyed the birds chirping and wondered what this special day had in store for me. Around 9, I went into the house to refill my coffee and was surprised to see that my wife and daughters were already up and packing lunch. "What's going on?" I asked, perplexed as to why they didn't make me get ready and go somewhere. My daughter Jill said, "We're going to the beach." "Oh," I said and went upstairs to get dressed for the lake. As I was putting on my shirt, I heard my daughter Jenny yell out, "Bye, Daddy. See you later." The door slammed shut and I looked out the window to see my wife and daughters leaving. I couldn't believe it. I hadn't expected the girls to remember my birthday. I had to remind them of their mother's birthday and Mother's Day, but I couldn't understand why Katie didn't. I was coming down the stairs and heard my cell phone ring. I rushed over there, hoping that they had figured it out and were going to tell me that they had come back for me, but no, it was my mom. "Hey, Billy. Happy birthday and Father's Day." "Thanks, Mom. Does Kathy have big plans for you guys today?" "No, she took the girls to the beach a few minutes ago." "Really? That's not like her. I'd bet she'll make you a nice breakfast and make this day special for you." "Yeah, I honestly don't know what's going on right now. She's been acting weird for weeks now." "Well, don't fuss. She probably has something special planned for later. I've got to get to church. Love you, Billy." "Love you, Mom. You were supposed to love my mom. She was an eternal optimist and loved Kathy as if she were her own flesh and blood. She and Kathy had been visiting each other regularly since my father died a few years ago. Kathy wanted to make sure my mom wasn't too lonely. I was standing there wondering what the hell was going on with my marriage when the phone rang again. It was my assistant, Anne. "Bill, we had an incident at the coffee shop this morning." "What happened?" "Missy was on the stairs when she was pushed by a customer. She lost her balance and fell." "Oh my God, is she okay?" "They took her to St. Alex's Hospital to have her x-rayed. She probably has a broken arm or something." "Shit, poor girl, do you have a shift?" "Yeah, I'm all set. I just didn't want you to catch me off guard tomorrow. I'm sorry I bothered you on Father's Day." "No worries, Anne. Thanks for calling." I hoped Missy would be okay. I fiddled around the house for a while and, figuring they wouldn't be back, headed to IHOP for breakfast. That turned out to be a mistake for my state of mind. The wait was long and everywhere I looked there were families everywhere. Happy families honoring fathers and grandfathers. I left before I started crying. I made my way through McDonald's and had a hearty breakfast of coffee and orange juice. The pancakes were surprisingly good, and I sat in the park and ate, wielding a plastic fork and knife. I looked out at the little lake I used to take my girls for rides around when they were little. They loved the water. Whether it was swimming, boating, or even fishing, they loved being on the lake. As they got older and almost went to college, they lost interest in fishing, and looking back, I think they lost interest in spending time with me at all. In those days, all their outings were with their mother. It was probably the right thing to do. Shopping for clothes with their father, I'm sure, would have been burdensome for a young girl. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there was no word from my wife. I could only assume there would be no dinner together. I walked into the Doctor Who cafe and ordered a Reuben. Surely the name had something to do with the TV series, like Reuben's Dalek Revolution, or something equally silly. Being a 40-year-old man who has no idea what's cool and what's not, I took a picture and registered on Facebook. I got the usual likes and Happy Father's Day greetings from my friends and acquaintances. Oddly enough, my mother-in-law commented that she thought it looked like I was at the beach with my wife and girls. Apparently, my wife had been posting beach pictures on her Facebook page. I finished my sandwich and headed to a sports bar near the house. I hadn't watched a game in a while, so I decided to drown my sorrows in Miller Lite. The bar was crowded and I wasn't in the mood, so I headed to the cigar lounge next door and treated myself to a $60 Opus X. Happy birthday to me. I sat down at a table and turned on the Sox game, and a couple of guys playing cards invited me to join them. "I'm Bill," I said, introducing myself to the older gentleman. "I'm Lance, and this is my brother Jerry." "Nice to meet you both." They finished and turned me over to their little 5-card game. "Help yourself, Bill," Lance said, setting the cooler on the floor. I thanked him and pulled out a Miller Lite. "No kids?" Or did the ex have them with a new man? Jerry asked with a smirk. I frowned and said, my wife and girls are at the beach right now. They don't seem to know what day it is. Sucks, Lance added. I don't see my boys much. Both of them are serving. Jerry nodded and said, my daughter lives in California. My grandson Charlie just turned 2. I'm going there next week. That's great, I said. When my girls turned 17 and 18, I started to miss the little ones running around. They both nodded understandingly. After some time of small talk, we somehow got back to the subject of my wife. Do you think she's really oblivious, or is she avoiding you on purpose? Jerry asked. It was a great question that I was pondering as well. I told them about the past few weeks, up to and including Friday's problems, and they shook their heads. She's cheating on you, Lance said. Jerry nodded in agreement. I can't believe it, I said. But as soon as he said it, I realized it was the only explanation that made sense and tried to believe it wasn't true. Listen, Bill, Lance said. I've been through this before. The changes in behavior, the sudden nighttime forays in slut clothes, the disrespect. I've been through it, buddy. My wife did it a couple times with a coworker, and when I found out about it, I divorced her. Biggest mistake of my life. What? I snapped back. She cheated on you. How can divorcing her be a mistake? In my opinion, there can be no excuses. Cheating is the end of a marriage, plain and simple. Period. End of story. Bill, I was broke for 5 years paying her alimony and child support. I missed her every damn day, loved her across town in my lonely apartment while she was alone in my house. She may have cheated on me, but at that moment I was too arrogant to forgive her. It's been 7 years, but we got back together when I pulled my head out of my ass. We're happy now. Jesus, I said. Giving your body to another man is the biggest insult and disrespect my wife is capable of. If what you say is true and she's having an affair, she's either so infatuated with her lover that she's forgotten my birthday or she's deliberately blowing me off. Either of those options is unacceptable. Lance shook his head. Bill, trust me. If you really love her, find a way to forgive her. You'll be better off in the long run. 40-year-old guys don't get second chances at love. Thank you, Lance. You've given me a lot of food for thought. I might have said that, but what I was really thinking about was how crazy he was. There was no way I could forgive her for cheating on me and no way I could stay married to her. I shook hands with both men, wished them well, and left. As I sat on the couch and browsed Facebook, it was almost dinner time. I saw my daughter's and wife's posts with pictures of their happy day and was saddened even more. Screw it, I thought. I need to pull myself together and stop acting like a lost child. My wife forgot my birthday. It happens. She forgot Father's Day. What's the difference? What mattered was that I was sure she had cheated on me on Friday night and had probably acted strangely many times over the previous weeks. Getting her to confess to me was her ultimate goal. Well, she'd accomplished it perfectly. It was time to get ready for the rest of my life. I decided to have dinner at my favorite restaurant. I knew it would be a long wait, and that was okay. I didn't have anything else to do. So I showered, put on my sport coat and pants, and headed out to get a steak. I was sitting at the bar of the steakhouse waiting for a table when an older man sat down in the empty seat next to me. He saw my bottle of champagne with one glass and frowned. Thankfully, he didn't say anything and just ordered a martini. While the bartender was filling my glass, the man apparently couldn't help himself and asked, "Are you celebrating alone, or am I taking someone else's place?" "No," I replied. "That's okay. I'm here alone." He nodded and took a sip. He must have been in sales because he couldn't sit still. He said, "Yeah, I'm waiting for my 3 generations of Red Fury. My wife is helping my daughter who broke her arm today. Apparently, she doesn't take well to having to do everything with her left hand." He laughed and continued, "You just don't expect your grown children to break bones. I thought those times were behind us." I agreed with his opinion and nodded. "Looks like I'll be cooking on my own for a few weeks. My wife will have to take care of Missy and Mia and leave me alone." I looked up. "What did you say?" Before he could answer, a little girl screamed from across the room, "Grandpa!" and rushed across the crowded bar. A little ball of red curls jumped into his lap and showered the man with hugs and kisses. A moment later, I heard, "Bill!" Turning around, I saw Missy and what I realized was her mother standing next to me. Her mother was a perfect portrait. Except for a few wrinkles around her eyes, they looked exactly alike. Hi, Missy. How's your arm? It's fine. I'm on strong painkillers, so I don't feel anything special. It hurt like hell when they put it in, though. Missy introduced me to her parents, Jack and Mary, and then to her adorable little girl, Mia. Where's your wife, Bill? She asked. I don't know. She took my girls to the beach this morning and I haven't heard from them all day. Really? On Father's Day? Worse, it's also my birthday today. Oh my God, she blew you off on your best day of the year? What's her problem? I didn't feel like getting into this and saying more than I should, so I shrugged. Well, forget about her. You should join us, Mary said firmly. I realized what Jack meant by his red-hot anger. I don't... Forget about it, Bill. You don't want them to militate against you. It's not pretty, Jack said with a chuckle, indicative of his years of militia experience against them. But it's your day, Jack. I don't want to get involved. Bullshit, he said. It's our day. Grandpa, you said... I know, Pumpkin. I said a bad word. Grandma's going to punish me later. Daddy? He winked at me as their table's buzzer sounded. Pay up, Bill, and meet me at our table. No charge. He said it with the tone of a drill instructor. He tossed a 20 on the counter and stepped back. I'm sorry, Bill. My parents can be thick-headed. Don't worry, Missy. I suppose it's better than eating alone. Conversation over dinner was light. Bill and I told stories about our daughters growing up, and Mia asked lots of questions. She kept giggling over embarrassing stories about her mom as a child. After dinner, my phone rang. I saw it was my wife, ignored the call, and put the phone on the table. Your wife? Mary asked. Yes. It's more than you realize, isn't it? Missy asked. I think so, but I have no proof. Bill, everyone makes mistakes, said Mary, looking directly at Jack. Maybe you can find a way to forgive her. Missy lifted her head and stared at Mary. I beckoned to the waiter and handed him my credit card. Well, I've destroyed enough of your meeting. Thank you for inviting me to share a meal with you. Bill, let me... No, Jack. It was an honor to dine with you, and especially one of my favorite employees. It's on me. Happy Father's Day. I shook their hands and walked over to the waiter's counter to sign the check. I didn't even have hard evidence that she'd cheated on me, but I'd already gotten 2-2 from people telling me I should forgive her. What was wrong with people? The phone rang again and again, but I paid no attention to it. I pulled into my garage and was greeted by 2 wiggly dervishes who showered me with kisses and hugs, apologizing for abandoning me on Father's Day. Girls, don't worry about it. I don't expect you to remember when it's my birthday. It's your birthday today? Jill shouted. She then ran into the house yelling at my wife. Daddy, we didn't know. I'm so sorry, she sobbed, clinging to my chest. You must hate us. No, baby. I love you more than life. When she suggested last night that we go to the beach today, we jumped at the opportunity. We didn't think, baby, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm not mad at you. I didn't tell her I was mad at her mother, but that was my problem, not my daughter's. Let's go inside. I walked through the kitchen, ignoring my wife's crying and my daughter's scolding, and went upstairs to change. Putting on shorts and a t-shirt, I returned to the war zone and found my wife sobbing alone. I'm so sorry, she mumbled. I shook my head and went out on the deck with a beer and a cigar. It was a beautiful night and I was enjoying the quiet, thinking about work rather than my wife, when the sliding door opened. Bill, What's his name? I asked, interrupting her. I didn't look at her, and she didn't step further back onto the deck. Bill. What's his name? The man you had sex with on Friday. My anger was building. I heard the door close, but she didn't come out. She didn't deny it. That's when I realized I was about to go to a divorce lawyer. Almost 20 years of marriage gone. What a stupid woman I had married. At this point, I began to think the worst. How long had she been cheating? Was he her first? Did I know him? Were these girls even mine? It's amazing what negative thoughts come to mind when you're treated so badly. I decided to ask for a paternity test on the girls as part of the divorce. It would not only be for my peace of mind, but also for Katie's embarrassment. I spent the rest of the night researching divorce laws online and then fell asleep on the couch. That's how I spent my birthday. I woke up at 5 in the morning. I found Katie in my bedroom, sound asleep, curled up on my pillow. The funny thing was that she looked peaceful, in contrast to how poorly I'd slept. She was so beautiful, Too bad she wasn't mine anymore. I would miss her body. I grabbed what I needed and took a quick shower. I managed to leave without waking her, but Jill was waiting for me in the hallway. How bad is it, Dad? I sighed. As bad as it could ever be. Can you forgive her? After all, it's just one day of oblivion. Honey, she didn't just forget my birthday or Father's Day. She cheated on me. She sighed. No, Daddy, she wouldn't have. She had to do it, but I won't accept it. Think about it. For the past few weeks, she'd been acting strange. Friday night, after getting a tan and getting her hair done, she went out dressed like a whore. That's definitely not for me. She shook her head. Babe, she avoided me all day Saturday and Sunday. She clearly had either guilt or hatred for me and didn't want to be around me at all. When else has she taken you to the beach without me? It's always a family excursion. What if it wasn't an affair? What if it was just a one-time infatuation? Can't you forgive her for one time? I doubt that's true, honey, but look at everything she's done. For once this weekend, did she act like she loved me? Daddy, you didn't see her face when Grandma called her and asked her why she didn't call Grandpa to wish him Happy Father's Day. She dropped the phone and yelled, "No!" So loud, we thought Grandpa was having a heart attack or something. He's fine, Dad. Mom sobbed on her knees until we lifted her up and sat her on the couch. She kept saying over and over that she loved you. Honestly, Jenny wanted to call an ambulance for her. She thought she was going to have a breakdown. We calmed her down and managed to get her to call you. Jill, I don't know what you want me to say. She doesn't love me. You can't cheat on your spouse and love them. It's not an act of love, it's selfishness. Love should be selfless. When she became intimate with another man, she discarded me. She hugged me and cried. I'm going to assume it wasn't some random guy she picked up at a bar. She must have flirted or accepted his flirting with her. There had to have been intimate touching, perhaps kissing and caressing, all of which preceded her first sex with him. All of these actions leading up to sex are a betrayal to your spouse. You can't be in love with someone and show intimate affection for someone else. Please don't divorce her. I have to go to work. I'll talk to you later. She walked into Jenny's room. I'll be sure to tell her about what we talked about. There would be no more secrets in our family. I wondered how much longer we would be a family. I knew Katie would be too busy at work to try to call or text me, so I was calm most of the day. The only thing that made the day not quite normal was filling out corporate forms related to Missy's accident. She was being compensated for her vacation, and I hoped she wouldn't be too worried. I didn't know anything about her personal life except that she wasn't married. She came in to sign forms and fill out an accident report. I wrote it for her since she has poor left-handedness, and she signed it. How are things at home? She asked. Not very well. She didn't deny it when I told her about her affair. Shit, Bill. I'm sorry. I'm sure you don't want to know my life story, but I understand how you feel. My ex-husband cheated on me while I was pregnant. I kicked him out before my daughter was born. My mom was furious. She basically called me a throwaway. Jesus, I thought it was weird when your mom mentioned last night that she had forgiven my wife. She was looking right at your father when she said that. Yeah, I noticed that too. I'm not sure who exactly, but it makes me think one of them was cheating. I'm sorry. Don't be. They seem happy so they can live as they please. I prefer never to trust a liar. Me neither, I said firmly. Katie wasn't home when I got home from work. She was probably having sex with her stud, and I was furious. I got back in my car and drove the 2 miles to her grocery store. I saw her car in the parking lot, and to my surprise, I saw her sitting in it with a young man. When I stopped in front of her car, she noticed me, and I saw her yell, "No!" She opened the door, but I managed to jump out. If she was going to cheat on me, he could have her. I'd had enough. I drove home and ran upstairs to pack. I planned to stay in a hotel until I found an apartment. Before I knew it, Jenny and Jill were already crying and begging me to stay. I'm sorry, girls, but your mom was just about to cheat on me when I caught her. She was in the car with some guy when I pulled up next to her. Daddy, this has to be a mistake. Girls, I know what I saw. She had a man in her car. Why would she stay after work and have a man in her car if she wasn't going to take him anywhere? She can't say they were just having lunch. There is no innocent explanation for her sitting in the back parking lot after work with a man in the car. Daddy, please don't destroy our family, Jenny sobbed. Honey, your mother ruined our family. It's not my fault. I hugged them and kissed their cheeks. I love you girls. I'll talk to you every day. I left them crying in the bedroom and went to the garage. As I was pulling out of the garage, I was almost hit by Katie speeding away. I shook my head and drove on. The next week was a living hell. I refused to take my wife's calls, and for the first 3 days, she called me every hour. She must have taken a week's vacation because she couldn't call from the store and was at the construction site all day. She left countless messages begging me to call her. I deleted every one of them. After those 3 days, my mother, mother-in-law, both daughters, and Kathy's sister begged me to talk to her. They all said it wasn't as bad as I thought, but every time I asked them if she had cheated on me, they wouldn't answer. They all knew she had. They just wouldn't admit it. I stopped answering the phone. I told my daughters I would talk to them, but their mother should not be mentioned. I had to hang up twice before they believed I was serious. At the end of the week, I met with a lawyer. I wanted to just split the house in half. She could own the house until the girls moved out. Then we would sell it. The lawyer said I could get more than half of the proceeds for the house since my down payment and monthly payment are more than Katie's, but I told him to just split everything equally. I thought alimony or maintenance was a done deal, but it turns out that since my wife makes enough money to support herself on her own, I don't have to pay her anything. That was the best news I've heard in a while. I don't have to pay her to do it with her lover. The only catch was that I had no proof of her cheating. The judge might not allow it and reduce it to irreconcilable differences, and I'd have to prove that we were trying to have a relationship. I decided to take my chances. My attorney was preparing to file for divorce, and life went on. There was no forced mediation or counseling. There were no lawsuits for alienation of affection. There was no drawn-out fight. The split was fair, and any judge could see that even blindfolded. But nothing came easy. What she could do was fight. When she was served with the papers, she unleashed her family barrage on me again. Turns out she had only done it once with a guy the Friday before my birthday, or convinced everyone that she had. I was labeled the bad guy because I wouldn't let her explain everything, as if any explanation would have been acceptable. My mother basically called me a wuss because I didn't fight for my marriage. My mother-in-law told me we were even because I also broke my vows by not staying with her during the most difficult times. My daughters told me I had to stay in the family because our divorce would scar them for life. It was unrealistic. I had done nothing wrong, but I was blamed for the divorce. It got to the point where I asked my daughters to submit their saliva for DNA testing. They refused until I lied to them and told them it was a court order. Kathy wrote me a letter that was mailed to my store. I read it, and it said she was caught up in the kid's attention to her. I say kid because the bastard was only 21 years old. They'd only had sex once in the backseat of his car, and sexually, he turned out to be worthless. As if the fact that he turned out to be a loser was supposed to make it better? She also told me that when I caught her in the car with that guy, I told him privately to never speak to her again. It didn't matter. She cheated on me once and that was enough. The best part was that because she gave me the letter, I didn't have to prove the cheating in the divorce. She did it on her own. That meant I didn't have to file an irreconcilable differences claim and prove that we were trying to work things out. Karma was finally on my side. She tried to resist the divorce, but when the judge saw the terms I proposed and her letter confirming infidelity, he approved it. I was to be divorced in 60 days. And so I found myself alone on an island of desolation. I was called immature and a jerk for refusing to talk to her. It got to the point where my mother and my daughters stopped talking to me. It hurt, but I was on the side of righteousness, and if they didn't like it, well, I called my daughters every day. They didn't answer, but I left voicemails telling them what was going on with me and asking what was going on in their lives. I didn't let them blame me for my lack of communication. I continued to make every effort and get in touch with them whether they wanted me to or not. One thing that changed was that I started having coffee with Missy on Sundays. It started innocently enough when we ran into each other at a local coffee shop. She and Mia lived in the neighborhood and were out for a walk. I invited them to join me and told them about my misadventures while Mia watched cartoons on my iPad. "I'm sure your daughters will come around, Bill," she said. "They're young, impressionable, and living with your wife. There's no telling what nonsense she's put in their heads." I hope you're right. I just hope they're not too far gone. I miss them like hell. The next week, I walked into the same store at the same time and was reading when I heard, "Hello, stranger." I smiled and invited them to join me again. Is this normal for you or are you stalking me? She asked with a smile. She asked with a smile. No, I live nearby and I like to have a cup of coffee and read on Sunday mornings. It's kind of lonely at home, so I come here. She sipped from her cup and we chatted about the neighborhood until we parted ways. It wasn't a conscious decision to meet every Sunday, but we did. I enjoyed her company and little Mia was a delight. The day the divorce became final, I knocked on the front door of my old house. My wife answered, and it was obvious she was crying. She didn't say a word, just invited me in. Are the girls home? I asked. They're watching the musical at school. I know why you're here. I expected you to come tonight. Really? I asked with a smirk. You waited until it was too late to stop it, didn't you? Yes, I said. I knew you'd beg, plead, try to make up, and I couldn't let that happen. You broke my heart, and there's no way I'm forgiving you. Damn it, Bill, it was one time. One bad mistake. Why couldn't you forgive me? Why couldn't you find a way to stay with me? Didn't you love me as much as I've loved you all these years? I laughed. Did you love me when you were flirting with your jerk? Did you love me when you avoided me all weekend and left me alone on my birthday? If that's your idea of love, you're beyond help. I never wanted that to happen, she sobbed. I never wanted to have a cheating whore as a wife, but here we are meeting. She gasped and started to speak before I interrupted her. Kathy, not only did you break my heart, but you turned my mother and my daughters against me. I will never forgive you for that. It's your fault for behaving irrationally. I got angry and said, if you don't make my mother and my daughters apologize to me and make things right, I will tell every man you date that you are a cheating whore. I will try to ruin every relationship you have in the future because you ruined mine. I don't need anyone else. Wrong answer. I guess I'll have to find other ways to hurt you and embarrass you. I stood up to leave and she grabbed my arm. It's not my fault. You can't blame me. Oh no? Did I cheat on you? I don't think so. You know what's really disgusting? You are allowing your daughters to grow up believing that cheating on your husband is acceptable. Because of your behavior, they're going to go into adulthood believing that you're a saint and I'm a sinner, and it's okay because it was a one-time thing. So screw it. I'm not going to get upset because some asshole made you feel sexy. I pulled her hand out of mine and said, burn in hell for leaving our marriage, just having sex with you, slut. I left her crying and didn't feel guilty. A few weeks later, Missy knocked on my office door. Got a minute, Bill? Sure, come on in. I frowned as she closed the door, expecting something bad to happen now. Bill, does the company have a rule against dating other employees? I hated it when she asked me that. I was hoping I could ask her out. It looked like I was too late. No. We have a strict sexual harassment policy. That policy protects just about anything that could be affected by a failed relationship between coworkers. And if two people can't work together after a breakup, it's their fault, not the company's. Good. That's exactly what I was hoping for, she said, placing a folded piece of paper on my desk. What's this? I asked. My address and phone number. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night for dinner. Mia will be joining us. I smiled and agreed. Good. You're a good man, Bill. You deserve happiness, and I want to give you a second chance at it. She popped out of my office with a cute spring in her step, and I looked forward to our dinner. Hey, it's Dad. I hope you and your sister are doing well. It's business as usual in my world, except a woman from work invited me over for dinner. Anyway, I love you and miss you. Please call me soon. Bye. I knew this message would cause some problems, but I didn't care. I needed to move on with my life, and I was glad that Missy took it in stride, as she had before. Missy was a wonderful woman with an even more wonderful character. Her daughter was very well crafted and adorable, and I had already met her parents. I felt like I was finally ahead of the curve. Only 15 minutes had passed when Kathy texted me. I can't believe you're already dating. You're a real bastard. I laughed when I read that. I never realized how deluded she was. To think that I would sit there and worry about her was crazy. Maybe some guys would mourn the loss of their marriage to a cheating wife, but that wasn't about me. At 41, I was young enough to find love again. Hell, I was young enough to have more kids if I wanted to. That was worth thinking about. Missy was in her early 30s. She might want to have more kids. I knew it was too early for such thoughts, but being a single mom, those things were probably high on Missy's list of potential suitors. I'm sure she was looking for a husband, not a toy. Though I certainly didn't mind being her toy. I hadn't done that in months. The next night I showered and shaved after work and dressed casually. Looking in the mirror, I didn't mind what I saw. I was in good shape with no extra wheels or love handles. I had a full head of brown hair that had yet to show gray in it. I had a great job that paid well, and money in the bank. I considered myself a pretty good catch for any woman, let alone a young one like Missy. And then I realized I had no idea how to date anyone. When you're married, you're always together and know everything about each other. There's no problem holding hands or kissing. When you came home after a night out, you knew sex was just around the corner. The status quo was comfortable. My God, I had to relearn how to have sex. I knew every spot on my ex-wife's body that gave her pleasure. I could only hope that the next woman I had sex with would enjoy the same pleasure, or at least have a good relationship with her. I was afraid I wasn't ready to date yet and regretted getting into the dating scene so quickly. I knocked on the door of her house with a bottle of wine, flowers, and a stuffed animal. I figured it couldn't hurt to win Mia's favor. When she opened the door, I was shocked by what I saw. Her curly red hair was loose around her shoulders, and she was wearing the perfect amount of makeup. She was wearing a roomy sundress that came down about 4 inches above her knees, showing off her beautiful legs. She was barefoot, and her toes were painted a hot pink color to match her nails. She laughed and asked, "Am I going to pass the test?" "God, yes," I said before I could take back what I said. She laughed even harder and took the flowers and wine from me. "Mia's watching TV. Go tell her hello. She'll love the bear." She left for the kitchen and I knelt down next to Mia. "Hi, sweetie. I brought you a bear cub." She looked at me apprehensively and then lit up the room with her smile. She held out her hands for the bear cub and ran to show it to Missy as soon as she picked it up. It brought back fond memories of Jenny and Jill at the same age. I realized how long it had been since we had talked to them and missed them even more. "What's wrong?" Missy asked, breaking me from my musings. I smiled forcedly and replied, "Nothing. I was just thinking about my daughters when they were Mia's age." "Is it really that bad?" she asked. "They still won't talk to me. Katie has turned them against me, and I can't change their minds. But I'm trying anyway. I leave them messages every day, and I'm not going to stop." "I'm so sorry, Bill. I know this is terrible for you." "Every day. But I know they listen to my messages. I told them about our date tonight, and Kathy texted me that I was an asshole for getting to the point so quickly." "I'm sorry, but that's not too fast, is it?" She bit her lip and looked pretty damn cute while doing it. "Maybe," I answered honestly, "but I'd be happy to find out with you." She smiled and took my hand. "Dinner's ready. I hope you like pasta with meat sauce." "That sounds wonderful. I have garlic bread, so you should be ready for us to make out on the couch afterward." Mia giggled, and I stood there shocked that Missy was being so blatant. She saw my awkwardness and said, "Bill, we're both adults and I've known you for 3 years. I know what kind of person you are, and it doesn't take much to realize that I really like you. You're going to be a hot commodity soon, and I want to make myself known as early as possible." "A hot commodity?" I asked. "Yep. You have no idea the excitement the news of your divorce has caused at the store. Honey, your appearance in the market, so to speak, has caught the attention of many unmarried ladies. You're a handsome man in good shape, you're smart, stable, and we all know how you feel about fidelity." When I sat down at her table, I didn't feel bad at all. "So I'll get in line early," she finished. I took her hand and squeezed it. "I like you too." Mia, not wanting to be left out, said, "Sketty is my favorite." "I like Sketty too. The fattier the better," I said. Seeing a jar of Parmesan cheese on the table, I added, "And you must have really stinky cheese." She giggled and replied, "It's not stinky cheese, it's stinky cheese," I said, bringing the jar up to my nose and imagining it was the worst smell ever. "Wow, this is really stinky cheese." Missy shook her head as I handed the jar to Mia. She sniffed it, shrugged, and poured a generous portion over the spaghetti. Over dinner, we kept up a light conversation. I asked about Mia's preschool class and her friends. She readily gave me all the details she could remember. I was enjoying the conversation immensely. After a while, I noticed that Missy had fallen silent. She smiled broadly and just watched her daughter and I exchange a few phrases. Eventually, she started to gather the plates, and I said, "Let me help." "Oh no, she hasn't told you about her favorite TV shows yet." She laughed as Mia started telling me about all the best children's shows. After putting Mia to bed, Missy came back and sat next to me on the couch. I handed her a glass of wine and she sighed contentedly as she put her feet up on the poof. I love being a mom, but sometimes it's the best part of the day for me. Instinctively, I wrapped my arms around her. When she snuggled up against me, I said, "It's even worse with two." "You bet it is. Do you think your girls will come around?" "I hope so," I replied thoughtfully. "I'm doing the best I can right now, but it's still raw for them." She turned and kissed my cheek. "You're a great dad. Just don't stop fighting for them." She set her glass aside and leaned back in her chair. "Bill, I've already told you that I really like you, and I'm too old to play the will we or won't we game. I'd like to keep seeing you, and that includes inviting you into my bedroom." I was about to tell her we didn't have to do that, but she held up a finger. "I know you want to be a gentleman and all, but you don't have to be. What I'm trying to say is that I don't want to be your girlfriend having sex with you or a friend with privileges. I'm warning you that I want an exclusive relationship. I have a daughter to think about, and frankly, she needs a daddy just as much as I need a husband." I tried to speak again, but was rebuffed again. Usually conversations like this end with the guy picking himself up and running away. I don't think you're like that, but I'm giving you a way out. If you want to sow oats and enjoy the single life, I'm not your girl. If, however, you want to see if we have a chance at a long life, I'm your woman. "Wow," I said. "Did you have that speech prepared or did you make it on the fly?" She frowned, misinterpreting my feelings. "Missy, as you said, we've known each other in a working relationship for 3 years. We've been having coffee together for the past few weeks, and it's been a pleasure. I'm a family man, and that's all I've ever been. I don't know how to be single, and the thought of dating scares the hell out of me. If my wife could keep her legs shut, I'd still be a happily married family man. No, I don't want to play on that field." She smiled and took my hand. I continued, "You're beautiful, smart, and you make great spaghetti." She laughed and playfully patted my shoulder. "I'd like to be your boyfriend. Consider me part of creating something good for all of us, including your little girl." We didn't make love that night. As much as I wanted to take her right there on the couch, I decided it was best not to rush things. She had already practically confessed her love to me and was very horny, so I decided it was best for my comfort to take my time. I received a gift from the gods when I was sent an application for a management position. I never found out the name of the brat who ruined my marriage and couldn't get back at him, but when he showed up for the interview for the night manager position, I recognized him immediately. I knew he would never recognize me, but he might have recognized my name, so I asked Ann to interview him and hire him right on the spot. On the second night of his job, I was waiting in the parking lot for him to start his shift. I walked over to his 90s car and put the 40-inch TV I had bought from a competitor in the back seat. We had identical models, and I happened to know that one was in stock. In the morning, I timed my arrival to coincide with the end of his shift. I walked him to his car, chatting about what he thought of his crew of guys. When we got to the car, I noticed the TV in the back seat and pretended to be shocked. "Jeff, you bought a TV before your shift? We're not open yet." "No, Bill. It's not mine. I don't know how it got there." "Jeff, I think we should go back to the store." "Bill, you have to believe me. Check the cameras." I shook my head and said, "Okay, bring the TV." We went back to the store and the guy was scared to death. At one point, I thought he was going to cry. We didn't have night security because since the store closed for the night and had a night crew working there, we didn't need it. We had cameras everywhere, and only in one place could they be turned off. Only the managers had the key to that room. The camera was pointed at the door to the room, but it was above the doorway to the stairwell. I mentioned this to security several years ago, but they never fixed the problem. Then I easily opened the door to the stairwell, walked over, and covered the camera with a piece of black duct tape. After that, I shut down the security camera system. Well, technically, I shut down the computer that controlled the system. When I brought him into the room, and he saw that the computer wasn't working, he panicked and kept going on and on about his innocence, and I called the police, per the rules. When all was said and done, the guy was found guilty of a misdemeanor and got no jail time. I was hoping he'd get a couple months, but TV wasn't expensive enough. He had to do a bunch of community service and pay a fine, which oddly enough was more than I paid for the TV. With a felony on his record, he's also going to have a hard time finding a retail job. That made me happy, but it still wasn't worth the risk I took. The corporation beefed up security by installing cameras in the parking lot. They were long overdue. He was stupid enough to never realize I did it. He tried to blame the team for setting him up, but he couldn't prove anything. They didn't miss him when I fired him. On a chilly Saturday morning, a week after dinner with Missy, I saw her waiting in the car to warm up. When I parked next to her, she met me at the door and greeted me with a kiss. "Are we still on for dinner tonight?" she asked. "Of course." "Good. I have something special I'm cooking for us. You won't want to miss it." "I wouldn't." "Is it that tramp?" Katie asked from behind me, interrupting me. "Excuse me?" Missy shouted, fully unclenching her claws. "Katie, what do you want?" I asked, getting annoyed. "I've been trying to call you. Did you block my number?" "Yes." "After your 30 messages about what an asshole I am for continuing to live, I'm done. What do you want?" "I want to talk about girls. We need to work out the college issue. They can go wherever they want. I've taken care of the money for them. I'd like to get involved, but ever since you sicked them on me, they won't talk to me. They're afraid you won't pay the tuition. Of course I'll pay. I still love them, even though because you can't keep your legs shut, I lost them in the divorce." Missy laughed. Kathy glared at her and said, "It's not my fault you couldn't forgive me for one misstep." "Oh, one misstep? It was only once because you were insensitive. I dealt with you right away." "It doesn't matter. You're still supposed to be my husband. We should still be a family." "You're delusional. You cost me my marriage, my family, my daughters, and my mother. I swear you better never date a man if I find out about this. You'll never see a second date. No one wants to date a cheating whore, unless they know about your reputation and are looking for easy sex." I turned and walked toward the store. There was shouting behind me, and when I turned around, I saw Missy pinning Katie against the car and poking her in the face with her finger. "Stay away from my man, bitch. You threw him out and I picked him up." I ran up and pulled her away. "Stop it, Missy. She's not worth this kind of trouble." "You heard me, bitch," Katie yelled, turned and walked toward the store. "Please go away, Kathy. It's over between us, and it's your fault. Yours and yours alone." I left her sobbing by the car. I caught up to a panting Missy and took her hand. She looked up and smiled at me, slowing her step. "I'm sorry, Bill. I guess I was too territorial." "Oh no, I like it when women fight over me in the parking lot. It's great for my ego." We laughed and went inside to take care of business. Later that morning, my mom called me. When I answered, she mumbled, "Billy, She didn't finish, and I heard a knock, but the call didn't end. I hung up and called back, but there was no answer. I called 911 to have an ambulance sent to her, but was told the call had already come from her house. I feared the worst and asked Anne to cover for me since I had to go. She understood, and as I ran through the store, I ran into Missy, who yelled after me. I ignored her and ran straight to my car. When I got to my mom's house, the ambulance was already pulling away and I followed. When I got to the back doors, I found that she was gone before the ambulance even arrived at the hospital. She must have passed out while we were on the phone. I cried as I sat in the lobby of the emergency room. I sat there alone and thought about the last words my mom had said to me. What had she meant to say? Maybe it was, "Am I in trouble? Am I having a heart attack? I'm really sorry?" The phone rang and it was Missy. "Hi, my mom just died." "Oh, Bill, I'm so sorry." "Yes, thank you. I'm afraid I won't be good company tonight." "No, I'll be with you. You need me. Please let me come." "Okay, yes," I said. I didn't feel like being alone, and I was glad she agreed to be with me. "I'm on my way home now. I'll meet you there when you get out." "Okay, I'll see you soon." I ended the conversation and walked to my car. Instead of driving home, I drove to my old house. I needed to tell my girls if they wanted to see me or not. As I pulled up to the house, I saw both girls' cars in the driveway and sighed. I had no idea that the first words we would say to each other would turn out to be such news. Ignoring the fact that I no longer lived here, I entered the code into the garage door opener and stepped inside. Katie's car wasn't there, and I was glad for that. I don't think I was in the right state of mind to meet her. The living room and kitchen were empty, so I went upstairs to the bedrooms. "Daddy!" shouted Jill when I walked into her room. "What do you want?" shouted Jenny, coming in after me. "Did you come to beg? Well, you can go to—" "Grandma had a heart attack and died this morning," I said, interrupting her. They both gasped. "I just thought I should tell you this in person. Now I'm going to hell." I walked out and closed the door behind me. I heard Jenny yelling for me to wait, but I ran to my car and left. I drove to the little lake where I had spent so many happy times with the girls. It was too cold for boats, but the water was starting to thaw and was very calm. I sat down on the picnic bench and cried again. This time I cried not only for my mother, but also for the loss of my daughters. The fury in Jenny's voice told me that I wasn't needed in her life. She didn't need to tell me to go to hell. Her tone said it all for her. I wondered if I'd made a mistake along the way. Not with Katie, but with the girls. What had I done so wrong that made them hate me so much? It was Katie who ruined our marriage. Why can't my daughters understand that? I don't know how long I sat like that, but I heard someone approach. I turned around. It was Kathy and the girls. "How did you find me here?" I asked, turning around to look at the lake again. "You didn't turn off the synchronization of our Find My Phone app," Katie said. "Bill, I'm sorry about your mom." "Yeah?" I spat. "Are you sorry that she died or that you turned her against me and she died without ever making up?" She continued to remain silent. "Leave me alone. I can't deal with your shit right now," I continued. "I'll never forgive you for what you did to me." The last time we spoke, she said she wouldn't talk to me again until I came to my senses and gave up on the divorce. She didn't even say she loved me when she hung up on me. "I'm so sorry, Bill, for everything." I heard her walk away and Jenny said, "Dad, we're sorry too. Please forgive us for being bitches." I turned around and they both rushed over to hug me. We cried in each other's arms for what seemed like an eternity. "It's not my fault, girls. Why can't you realize that what your mother did is the reason we're no longer together?" "We're sorry, Daddy," Jill said. "We just thought you should forgive her. She loves you, it's so obvious." "Not enough to be faithful to me, Jill. I'm so sorry, girls. I'm so sorry." We hugged again while Kathy watched us from the warm car. "Girls, I need you so much. You're going off to college soon and I'm going to miss you. We're losing so much time." "We understand, Daddy," Jenny said. "We won't shut you out anymore," Jill added. "I wish your grandmother had the opportunity to do the same." "Daddy, can we come with you? We haven't seen your new house yet. Maybe we could get some pizza." "Sure, tell Mommy, and let's go." As I pulled up to my house, I saw Missy's car. I had forgotten she was coming. "Girls, looks like you're going to meet Missy." "Is she your girlfriend?" they asked in unison, making me laugh. "Yeah, well, I mean, we just started dating." "Look how he's blushing, Jenny. It's so cute." They jumped out of the car and were at Missy's door in no time. They peppered her with questions and I could see that Missy didn't understand what was going on. "Girls, leave her alone. Bring her inside and I'll introduce you all." They kissed me on the cheek and disappeared into the garage, and I walked over to a shocked Missy. "Sorry about that," I said as she opened the door. She smiled radiantly and kissed my cheek. "Your daughters?" Hmm. Come on, you'll be formally introduced." "I wish I knew, dear. I must look terrible." I laughed and replied, "You're fine. They'll like you." "Jenny, Jill, I want you to meet Missy." They hugged. Jenny, as usual, cheekily declared, "You're super hot." Jill jumped up and said, "Good for you, Daddy." Missy laughed, and I was too shocked to say anything. "Hey, let's take a quick look around the house, and then I need to take care of some things for Grandma's services." "Bill, I'll order some pizzas while you look around." "Sounds good to me, honey. You're reading my mind." "Oh," the girls cooed. I shook my head and Missy smiled. I decided I would wait until the next morning to call and tell them about Mom. I would write an obituary for the paper on Monday, and on Sunday, after visiting the funeral home, I would post the details of the service on Facebook. After dinner, we sat and spent hours telling Missy stories about my mom. My girls, not so innocently, added a few embarrassing stories about me to keep Missy more interested. It wasn't my fault the pier was wet and I fell into the lake, I swear. Before I knew it, it was 10 o'clock. "Girls, time is slipping away from me and it's getting late." They frowned and asked, "Can we stay the night?" "I don't have beds for the guest rooms yet. Tell you what, I'll pick you up in the morning and we'll go out for breakfast, okay? If you don't mind, I could use some help deciding what to do with Grandma's stuff too." "Sure, Dad. We'll help if we need it." "Thanks, Missy. Do you want to go for a ride? Or do you need to go to Mia's house?" "She's staying with my parents." Jill jumped up. "Who's Mia?" Mia is my 4-year-old daughter. They both squealed and Jenny said, "Oh my God, I can't wait to meet her." Missy laughed at their excitement and said, "Someday soon, I promise." "Okay, let's go." "They're great girls," Missy said as we sat on the couch shortly after returning to my house. "I'm glad you were able to get back together with them." I sighed. "I am too. Just wish it didn't require Mom's death." She snuggled into my arms and I fell asleep with my arms around her. When I woke up in the morning, she had a blanket covering us and was still snuggled up against me. I missed being so close to someone. I kissed the top of her head and said, "I'm sorry I fell asleep on you." Hmm, she moaned, stretching. "It's okay, baby. You've had a very emotional day. Would you like to join me and the girls for breakfast?" "Only if I can bring Mia with me. My parents have plans this morning." "Sure, my daughters will love her." Since we needed to pick up Mia, I asked my daughters to meet us at IHOP. When I walked in holding Mia's hand, my girls rushed over to her. Within seconds, Mia was in their arms, spinning in the air, and then they started tickling her and covering her with kisses. All the while, she squealed and giggled with a huge smile, to the point of yelling, "I have to go to the bathroom." The girls said in unison, "We'll get her," and ran off to the bathroom. "I don't know, Missy. Do you think they'll get along?" I asked with a grin. 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 She playfully patted my shoulder and kissed my cheek. "I hope it stays like this for years to come," she said. She was set on the long term, and technically we only had one date. It was a little unnerving, but I was sure I could handle the feeling. As we ate, Mia and my daughters chatted nonstop about everything in the world. I could tell in my eyes that Mia loved to talk, and not just about herself. She asked so many questions about my daughters' lives that I think even my girls were surprised. My daughters worked as nannies for neighbors, so interacting with young children was their forte. They knew all the hot kids shows and movies, and Mia ate them out of the palm of her hand. They also got along great with Missy. There was no hostility or display of anger when they met her, which shocked me. They refused to talk to me for months after the divorce. But as soon as they met my new girlfriend, they immediately became best friends. I didn't understand it, and I would have to try to get the girls to explain. After making dozens of phone calls, starting the long process of cleaning my mom's house, and visiting the funeral home, I was finally able to sit down and relax. The girls came back to my house for dinner, and Missy and Mia went their separate ways after breakfast. Missy decided it would be too emotional for us and wanted to avoid the discomfort of Mia asking questions about everything while we sorted things out at my mom's house. "Daddy, are you in love with Missy?" Jenny asked unexpectedly. "We've only seen each other a couple times outside of work. It's a little early to call it love." "Okay, Dad," Jill said like I was an idiot. "Have you seen the good old cartoons where the girls' eyes widen and they press their palms to their cheeks looking at their prince?" I nodded, taking a bite of my pizza slice. "Well, when she looks at you and claps her eyes, she's practically got her heart in her head already," Jill said. Before I could deny that she liked me, they looked at each other, turned to me, and said, "We like her." I went from elation at the sight of my daughters to anger. I threw my piece on my plate, wiped my hands, and went to the sink. Leaning on the counter facing them, I tried to calm down. "Dad?" Jenny asked. "Girls, how can you break my heart all this time and now sit there and tell me you like my girlfriend? What have I done to you that you think it's okay to shut me out? To ignore me? Telling me to go to hell when I see you for the first time in my life? What did I do? Do you know how many times I cried leaving you a message I knew you didn't want to receive? Mom made us." "What?" I exclaimed. Jill replied, "It all started when Mom told us, if you think you're losing us, come back to her and we'll be a family again. We're sorry." I turned around and Jenny, seeing a tear on my cheek, rushed to hug me. "Dad, we're so sorry. After things didn't work out, she told us that you left us and weren't going to pay for college because we wanted you to stay with her. She told us that the messages you left were just a ploy you used in the divorce to seem like a nice guy and please the judge." "And you believed that?" "Dad, how would you react if you sat with her day after day and heard her defend her one-time mistake against 20 years of love? We thought you were being unreasonable." "What about me? Would you let your boyfriend cheat on you?" I didn't have an answer. "Where's the boundary?" I asked firmly. 1, 2, 5, answer me?" They began to cry and we hugged each other. Their hugs immediately calmed me, and I felt awful. I'm so sorry, girls. I missed you guys so much. After each of them confessed their love to me, I said, "It's time to bring you home. You have school tomorrow. Don't forget to ask your mom to tell them about the wake and funeral. You're going to need some free time this week." We hugged one more time, and I watched with warmth in my heart as they drove away. I looked up at the sky and said, "You didn't have to go to bring the girls back to me, Mom, but thank you. I'll miss you." Wakes are hard for me because I always felt uncomfortable sitting in a room with a dead body. My mom's wake was especially hard. Throughout the day, I walked over to the casket several times and looked at her. She looked peaceful. I was glad that she would see my dad again. A few years before, he had died of cancer. He wanted the funeral to be a different kind of funeral, without a wake. He, like me, thought it was strange that people were interacting with a corpse. Mom had it all figured out. I guess as you get older, you start to think about these things. She even picked out the coffin. All I had to do was set the time and day and take care of the small details like arranging the room and the service. I was glad she had done that. I was standing at the front of the room talking to one of her friends when Katie and my girls walked in. My daughters greeted me with warm, tear-filled hugs, and Kathy gratefully left me alone. After saying a prayer, Kathy put something in the casket and retired to the back of the room where she sat alone. I looked at what she put down and saw that it was a picture of Kathy and me in an embrace with my mom. She was holding each of our babies in her arms, and a smile a mile wide shone on her face. I picked up the picture she had hidden and reverently placed it next to her hands. It was the first time I cried that day. Later, the priest wanted to start the prayer service. Kathy never left her seat at the end of the hall. She drew everyone to her. You can't be a family member for as long as she was married and not recognize people, and they all loved her. Protocol dictated that immediate family members were to sit in the front row of chairs. My girls sat on my right and Misty on my left, but that felt wrong somehow. I stood up and turned around. I saw Katie, who was still standing at the back of the room, wiping tears from her eyes. This didn't seem right to me. My mom wouldn't have wanted this. Kathy was as much a daughter to her as she was a wife to me. I walked to the back of the room. As everyone sat waiting for the service to begin, they noticed me and started to follow me. I held out my hand to Kathy. "Come here. You don't need to hide here." She started sobbing and hugged me. As she let go of me, she whispered, "Thank you." We walked to the front of the auditorium, and my Uncle John gave her his seat, which was next to my daughter. "You're a good man, Bill," Missy whispered, kissing my cheek. It was the strangest feeling of my life to hold Missy's hand when my ex-wife was only a few feet away from me. I prayed that I wouldn't regret it later and have a problem with them. As we were winding down for the day, I was saying goodbye to the last of the visitors, and then Kathy came up to me. Since Missy was next to me, I wondered how Kathy would behave. I hoped she wouldn't start a fight out of respect for my mother. "Bill, thank you for inviting me into the family today. It means more than you can imagine. She loved you like a daughter, and it was the right thing to do. Oh, that reminds me. If you want, you can ride in the limo with us and the girls tomorrow." She hugged me and cried. I felt Missy's arm around my waist, and I was afraid a fight was about to break out. "Well," Katie said, breaking the hug, "if you don't want anything from me, I'll go home." I shook my head negatively, and she gave Missy a brief smile. "I'm glad you're here for him. You may not know it, but he's been a mama's boy. It's going to be really hard on him if she leaves soon." With those words, she turned and left the room. Missy hugged me from all sides and said, "Let's get you home." I threw my keys in my locker and headed into the kitchen, glad the day was over. Missy was sitting at the table taking a cold beer from me. "I think the relationship with Katie worked out better than you expected. You handled it well," she said, as I enjoyed a cold Sam Adams. "Yeah, I'm glad. I really expected her to start something with you." "Well, I'm sure the girls helped with that. We just need to get through tomorrow and everything will be fine." I hoped she was right. I don't know why I had a disturbing feeling that Katie wouldn't be able to handle Missy. I guess I'm just paranoid. "Will you stay the night with me?" I asked. She smiled and took my hand. "You couldn't kick me out even if you tried." We didn't make love, but she snuggled up against me, and it was the best sleep I'd had since the divorce. "You watch me like a hawk. I'm not going to abuse your gift by getting into an argument," Kathy said as we waited for prayer to begin. I know that, I lied. It just makes me uncomfortable. She snorted and asked, How do you think I feel? I'm an outcast here, a whore. I frowned. No one thinks that about you. Especially not today. I'm sorry, Bill. I wish I could make it never happen. I wish... She cried and hurried to the bathroom. This is hard on all of us, Bill, my mother's friend Jean said, patting me on the shoulder. Your mom was a wonderful woman, and we'll all miss her. I kissed her on the cheek and thanked her, satisfied that Kathy had moved my mom to tears. After the funeral, we sat down at a table at my mom's favorite Polish restaurant. The room was full, and Kathy looked awkwardly around for a free seat. I approached her again and led her by the hand to the table where Missy and my daughters were seated. Katie, we will always be a family no matter the divorce. No matter where we sit, you will always be welcome. A tear rolled down her cheek as she sat down and thanked me. I don't know when I got over it, but I felt like I had finally forgotten the pain she had caused. Life went on. The girls went to college and Skype with me every week. Missy and I are still together, and I am very close to popping the question. Katie and I communicate infrequently, but cordially. She too is getting her life together, dating the divorced father of one of the girls' friends' divorced father. He's a nice guy. I hope things work out for them. Some will say I should have forgiven her for that one-time slip-up, but I just can't do that. I may be a bad guy in someone's mind, but I can live with myself. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel and watch for the next video.